Hi guys, Legendary Talks here. We have someone that I think is very, very amazing. I'm very excited to chat with her. She's just a special, unique, amazing lady, and I cannot wait to talk to her. Her name is Sarah Jones. She will be joining us shortly. Hey guys, joining. Welcome everybody. We are going to talk to the amazing Sarah Jones in one moment. Oh, D-Nice, what up? I'm talking to Sarah Jones in a moment, so. D-Nice, proud of you. Jody Watley was on the other night. You gave Jody Watley a shout out and me in the same sentence. That was amazing. Thank you, D-Nice, for that. Hope you're doing well, enjoying your girls. Hey, Chandra. D-Nice, you have to come on here one night when you're not busy. Hey, Sarah. Sarah's joining now. Cannot wait to chat with her. Sarah, you know how to join, right? Love you too, Derek. D-Nice. I'd love to have you on one night talking about life when you're not busy, but I know you're kind of booked and busy right now, thank goodness. So, Sarah, do you know how to join, or do you want me to? Okay. Do you want me to invite you? Okay. I'm going to invite you now, Sarah. Hold on. So I just invited you, Sarah. Okay, good. We got it. Oh, no. I invited you, Sarah, so you should get it now. Sarah's an amazing artist that I love very much. So I cannot wait for you guys, if you don't know her, to meet her, to see her. She's literally one of a kind, so. Sarah, I invited you so you could accept it, or you could request me if you're not getting it. It's not coming through. Okay, I'll do it again. Boo. How's everyone doing today, by the way? I sent it again, Sarah. Sydney's excited that Sarah's on, so am I. The amazing Sarah Jones. How's everyone doing today, guys? What are you drinking? What are we drinking today? I had a nice day. Hope y'all did as well. It's hot in New York City, they're saying. LA's been good, 70 something, 78. Sarah, let me know if you got it. Oh yeah, there we go, got it. Very excited to chat. Hi.
Hi, honey.
How are you?
I miss you.
I miss you too. Great to see you.
Okay, let me start again. So do you know how much I miss you? I fully intended to start like this, and I was like, I'm going to start like this. Damon's got all these lovely friends who don't know me. It's going to be really funny. And then I saw you, and I was like, Damon, and I completely forgot.
Well, listen. I'll take any version of you. You know what I mean? So, well, first of all, thank you for doing this. I appreciate this. And it is great to see your face as well. We do genuinely like each other. We are, we really connected. But I want to, I think you're amazing, and you know that. And I tell every human that I can about you. I think that, you're such a one of a kind, and such a the purest form of talent I've seen. My best friend says, Cleese, my best friend says, when I like something, I make everyone around me like it, and I feel that way about you, but you know that. I mean, I try to support you literally in any way I can, and you know that, so. You
know what? You brought your mom to my...
Exactly.
I remember standing on the carpet, like whoever it is, Janelle, or whoever, you're always so lovely, bringing new people to me, and I just love you. I love these talks. I love these legendary talks. I actually love the Khalees one. I love the way you're doing this. So thank you for doing it.
Well, this is like my 65th one, I think, and basically what I'm doing is trying to celebrate people, these cultural people that are very, very important to culture, whether they're well-known, not well-known, none of that matters to me. It's like these really important people to culture. So, and it's really a celebration of these people. So, and I've been, trying to get you to do it for a while, and I'm very glad you're doing it. So so I was thinking about you, and I was like, want to introduce you and tell people what you do, but to be honest, it's challenging for me. How would you do, I'm sure you could probably do it much better than me.
Okay, so you ready? Right, so I started like this. First off, can you hear me okay? You're fine?
Fine.
Okay.
Yep.
So I started off like this because really, when people are like, what do you do? It's actually easier for me to show you. I'm not like D-Nice where I have to actually get out a whole bunch of equipment and be like, this is how I create a world. I get to start here, even though, hi, shout out to D-Nice, and thank you for helping us get through quarantine. Those of us who are still on lockdown in LA because we've been sent back to our rooms. Oh my God. Anyway, so I do a show here on IG. I'm doing it tomorrow, actually. It's like a Wednesday matinee. And the best way to describe it is like, I've been on Broadway. I had my own one-person show. I've done TED Talks, like the big TED, not even just TEDx, which I have to say because I'm a Black woman and people assume. So I had to follow Bill Gates and all of that. But the thing that I would say people know me for is that I do this, right? I literally can just be somebody else. And I don't know whether that's down to, I just need a better therapist, or as you know.
Hi, Damon, sweetheart. Hi, honey. Okay, Sarah mentioned that your mom came to the show. I remember. My name is Lorraine. Hi, everybody. Hi, Damon's friends. I know you call him Legendary Damon. I feel like I'm one of the kids when I say would you call it a handle? Anyway, Sarah has me here because she does her shows, what she calls her one-woman show. And you know what that means? That means she takes the credit and then makes us come out here and do all the work.
So, and then like, Damon, I love you. Hi, I'm Bella. I don't know if you remember, but I'm totally like, just super stoked every time Sarah Jones like goes out dancing with you or whatever. It's like amazing for me because like you're always surrounded with like such like the people around you are just like high vibes, and I just like as like a feminist and like along a queer continuum, like you just always have like the most amazing style, and you get her out of the house, which I like totes preach. So those are some of my friends who come along with me.
So, to be honest, I couldn't have explained it any better than that. So I'm so glad. So, like I said, you are such a unique talent, and there's literally nobody like you, but you know that. I'm sure you know that about yourself. I was thinking about you a lot today, and I was like, it must be really unique experience being you, So, I feel the same way. I was thinking about us. We do have some things in common, as I was thinking about it both today, but I was, really what you do is so specific and so unique. But it's also so well received. It's like people that I think smart people love it. That's what I think. So,
You know what? Yeah, I hope it appeals to the smart. Nobody wants to walk around thinking they're dumb, right? And I remember like people saying, "Oh, your comedy, it's a little bit smart." And I'm like, what do you think of your audience? When I would talk to like TV producers or whoever, they'd be like, "It's very smart," and I'd be like, "So, do you not trust the audience is smart enough to like get it that I can be, a Black woman 1 second and like, like an Italian male cop in the next second, and like people will go with that if we trust their intelligence." So thank you for pointing that out. I appreciate it.
Well, your work is smart. That's a good thing. So I'm like, duh. But I do kind of want to. There's some questions I have for you.
Okay.
You, Sarah. So
That's me.
You're from Baltimore, correct?
So I was born in Baltimore, and my dad is from there. So I claim a little. I know I love crab cakes.
Where were you raised?
I was really raised in New York, but I was born in Baltimore. My parents were students, so they met in college, and then wherever they moved, we moved. So they went to school in Baltimore, and then we moved to DC, and then New York. But I'm New York. New York is kind of my.
Yes.
Yeah.
I asked a lot of people this question because I think this is a really important question, and specifically with you, but because, I think when you're 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, those are really formative creative years, and what you're drawn to those years are the creative adult you are usually. So what was kind of the first, what's the first movie that you were kind of drawn to,
Oh.
Had a big impact on you, young,
Really young. So this is, it's probably a very typical answer, but I just remember that The Wizard of Oz offered me all of these voices, and you can see, like, so I come from a multicultural family, and I'm a lot like you. Like, I think of you as a race traitor in the best sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, you understand your whiteness, your privilege. You always, you know, the whole time I've known you, we can always have that conversation about, you know, what white supremacy looks like and how can we be anti-racist, all of that. So in my family, you know, my mom, like, I have everybody.
Like, this older lady is actually based loosely on real relatives, okay? So it was a lot.
And being in the middle and having all these voices, I would have West Indian relatives come in the house, and I talk to them like that. When they talk to me, I talk back to them. So for me, it was like, oh, the whole world is a cast of characters, and I want to, if I want them to pay attention, to me, it probably will help me as a little 8-year-old girl, girl, to be able to give it back to them. Or, my cousins would talk like this, and they had the nails back in the, 80s and whatever. So I really picked up all of that. And I remember how the voices in, the witch and just all those different voices, I was like, I want to be the lion. I want to be,
all of that. All of that, yeah. And you're right, The Wizard of Oz is so specific. Each character is very specific, not that's a great one. And then what kind of music, what was a really important music, like first song, or like, what songs did you really resonate as a young person?
I mean, so here's the other thing, right? When I got to New York, so my mother's family's from New York, so we always spent all our holidays there. I was very New York oriented. But like I said, there was a lot of confusion. The mixed race family thing, I went to school in DC when I was very little, and hip hop was just, it was like, Eric B and Rakim would be like floating in through the window, but I wasn't quite, my mother was listening to Joni Mitchell still or whatever, and the kids at school were like, your mother's white. And I was like, well, she's actually mixed race, but I'm not going to argue with you. So I had this white appearing mom, so there was a mix. I still love Joni Mitchell to this day, probably because of that. And
yeah,
I loved,
Eric B and Rakim. Yeah.
Eric B and Rakim. So yeah.
But it all makes sense. I mean, you're saying it, like everything you're saying, it's kind of like what I kind of already thought, realistically, to be honest. It's so funny. So, and then was there any one person, let's say, that influenced you as a child, whether it be a family member or family in general, or Diana Ross, or like, was there what was like a major something where you were like, either, it sounds to me like you kind of were, when you were young, just taking all the cultural and family influences, but was there any one person, or maybe, like I said, Diana Ross or something? What do you think?
Yeah. It's funny. I've been thinking about this, and it's going to sound like it's out of left field. So my parents weren't home. They were both in the medical field. They were busy all the time. And I remember needing like a gentle, kind of just that gentle parental figure. And it was Mr. Rogers.
Oh, interesting. Well,
I loved him. I was like, he's so friendly. He wears the sweater. My dad was kind of, and this example of like this gentle, man who couldn't tell me I'm grounded. It was, he was kind of important to me.
It's so funny because everything you're saying makes sense knowing the way I know you. It's so funny. Like if I didn't know you, I'd be like, what is she talking about? But it makes total sense. You mean? So, okay. So I first became aware of you. I was at the CFDA Awards in 2016.
Yes.
So Jennifer Hudson asked me to go with her, and I went with her, and she called me on stage. It was a Prince tribute, and then they showed your this video of you as a messenger, and I was literally like, who the frick is this woman? Like, you were so amazing. That's why I wanted the clip, because I wanted to show it, because that was my first kind of like, that's how I first got to know you. And I met you that night, and I think we might have exchanged phone numbers, and we just kind of connected. To me, it was like, I thought, I was blown away by your talent, but I also, I think we just liked each other is what it was,
Yeah, so I immediately felt connected to you. And I remember that night, and what was so funny is, so in that film, I play this dude named Rashid. I know I'm breaking down, we're going to break down the gender barriers and all that. But I played Rashid in the movie. And then it's a little short film. Fisher Stevens directed it. I love that dude, and we just did this thing for the fashion industry. It was crazy. And then I got to play Nereida in the same little film. And he's the messenger, she's the dispatcher, and she's like, come on, make the pickup, like, what's wrong with you, blah, blah, blah. And it was this amazing experience. I had such a good time doing it. And then I got to tell you my little sob story from that night. Let me let narrator tell you. No, let me tell you. So that night, I was like, you guys, they're not going to know it's me. So all night, people were like, that was the most amazing movie. Who was that girl? hi, nice to meet you. Because I was all like dolled up in my
Yep.
back post
I
or
remember.
whatever.
Looking
And
gorgeous.
so I didn't look anything like, you know, I also played a character of Indian descent in that film. I think I was playing like Donna Karan's assistant or something like that. So I am walking around there knowing people are buzzing about this film that they love so much and they don't know it was me. So it was a really good ego deflation moment. I didn't get to have all my...
First of all, I knew it was you immediately. I'm smart. I knew it was you immediately. So I remember seeing you. Yeah, exactly. No, but you know, just so the people watching, if they haven't seen it, you play a bike messenger that's going to deliver all these like dresses and stuff to Donna Karan, Diane von Furstenberg, wasn't it? Alexander Wang, right? All these different people.
There were so many people in it. It was Tommy Hilfiger was in it. It was so great.
It was so funny too, and you play all these different characters. You play different characters, but the bike messenger is the one that like stood out to me because you're like, yo, it's amazing. I can't do it obviously, but and you. But yeah, okay, so then after that, I came to your show, Sell by Date, with my mother. I came several times, but to me, again, like, you know, just like to blow me away even more, then I went to the show, and, you know, I've never seen anything like that in my entire life. And I've seen, you know, I'm a cultural person. I love seeing live things in general. I've seen thousands of concerts or live things. I have literally never seen anything like that. And I, like I said, since that moment, I have made it a passion of mine to make sure other people know about that show, and you know that, but you mean. And it's interesting because you know, you play how many characters? About 15 characters, or how many?
There's like 19 in that show.
Yeah, and you see, just again, so people that are not familiar with you, seamless. You put on a different pair of glasses or something, but you don't really change anything else. But you seamlessly become that person, obviously. So, and it's about human trafficking, but it's not done in a way where I had seen a documentary in the same like 6 months about human trafficking, and I was gutted after the documentary. But this, you almost leave, you feel like you can do something about it, first of all. You know, you walk away thinking, I can really help this, you know, as opposed to feeling gutted. So you did it in such a brilliant way where you don't feel gutted, basically, after. So, you mean, that was your intention, I assume. You mean, so.
100%. I mean, and even in talking about the show, right, I'm always really like, I'm like, well, Damon can say it, but I never say in public that it's about human trafficking because, but you know, it's really about people. And I think people are like, oh my God, I don't want to go out to the theater and be miserable. And that's not what it is. It's really like every show that you've, you know, Pretty Woman, like anything you've ever seen that kind of touches on that topic, but we don't talk about the realities of like, especially our young girls of color, our trans femme sisters of color. Like, you know, this is a real issue that we get to look at. And I approach it from the standpoint of like, it's more in our lives than any of us realize. Like even, you know,
the cop character. All right. I'm going to let Joey come out and say hi. How you doing, Damon? Very nice outfit. All right. And, you know, Sarah Jones, I said, what do I have to do with, you know, traffic, whatever? I don't want to talk about that. She said, you think you have nothing to do with, you know, the sex industry, commercial sex? Have you ever watched porn? I was like, oh, I guess I got to plead the fifth. You know, so the whole point is that it's a part of all of our lives, whether we realize it or not. And if we talk about it, it actually gets at all the other forms of oppression that we're trying to fight now, you know?
Well, it's interesting because I keep wanting to talk way more about you, but this stuff is so interesting to me. So how long, let's say, like when did the show start, Sell by Date?
So this is so crazy. I started writing it. So I did a show called Bridge and Tunnel on Broadway. That was that was like my coming out, you know, experience with, and Meryl Streep was my producer. So I was like,
no biggie,
right? Like just NBD. And I kind of didn't know how to deal with any of that. Like I was like, you know, I was like, Meryl's my friend and she just wants to amplify because I do what she does. You know what I mean? Like we were just like, we love characters. And then the next thing I knew, it was like Robert De Niro was backstage in my show. And I was like, what's happening? So I kind of didn't handle that well. And,
it's hard. Yeah,
Damon,
yeah.
I
understand.
I had to get divorced, honey. I had to go through it. Like I had to just like pull back. Who do I want to be? Do I want to be chasing red carpets for the rest of my life, or do I do my art? You know what I mean? Yes. So that was, and so I had taken this break. And then I remembered, like, this is a topic that, like you said, every documentary I see is like so depressing. Even if it's well done, I just need a prescription for something at the end. And I don't want to tell my friends to go see it. And I was like, how can we do this so that actually people love it and they want to come to the theater? And so I realized that if we talked about it almost the way you can look back on, you know, women's rights, getting the vote in a movie now, because we can vote now. So it's not as depressing to look at all these women who don't have any rights because we're like, look at that. That was so crazy. And so this was like, what if we looked at it from the future? What if we look at this?
That's life in the future. That makes total sense. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Smart cookie over here. You're right.
But that's how we
That's
get to have
great.
more fun. It gets to be a fun show. It's PG-13.
And it was fun because if you think about it, and I also didn't really tell a lot of people it's about human trafficking because I didn't want to discourage them from seeing it because for the same reason. And the reality is it is a fun, it's a very entertaining, and you leave feelings, like I said, semi-inspired, and also that you can do something about it. You feel like you can actually do something about it. So kudos to you. I cannot, like you really did it beyond brilliantly, not your talent, even the way that you, like you said, did it in the future, and not strictly just not the way you performed it, but the way that you, like I said, wrote it in the future and made it digestible, basically, so it's, I can go on and on forever, but I do want to talk to you. So first of all, yes, you mentioned that Meryl Streep, but you kind of, okay, people say that I know everybody. People say that about, Damon knows everybody. You know everybody. You know everybody. So, Cher, you told me stories about Cher, Michelle Obama, Meryl Streep, Gloria Steinem, I think is your good friend, right?
Yes, I love her.
I mean, who else? Like who, name drop a little bit, please. We're amongst friends.
Okay, we're gonna name drop. Okay, so here's the thing, right? What I love is that people discover me. I always joke about that because people are like, oh my God, Meryl Streep discovered you. And I'm like, yes, don't make her the Columbus of my life. Like, don't do that. I was here before she got here. It's cool and she's wonderful, but I'm not gonna. So yeah, I did get to perform at the White House for the Obamas when they first got in and then later. So that was kind of incredible. And, I've also had these experiences of like, performing for my hero, like people I've loved all my life,
Yes.
Cher or I remember just being at a party with, okay, this is, so I mentioned, I'm a little bit embarrassed of this, just a little bit, but I had, oh my God, I hope he doesn't see this. I had such a crush on Chris Rock, and I'm allowed to say that, I'm older, it's fine. Like a comedian crush. I just was like, he's doing his stuff, And at one point I was at this party with, I want to say it was Bono, Chris. It was just like this party was nuts. And for whatever reason, like the camera got passed around, somebody was filming. And so I did my little, 2 seconds of like, what I do. And all of a sudden, people were like, oh my God. So it's so much fun to like get to meet my, some of the people I've admired most in the industry and then get to share my work with them in return. And I have flown under the radar a lot of the time. I like to write my own stuff. Hollywood has not always thought of my perspective, a Black woman's perspective in particular. I had a show, as you know, privately, that, didn't air. And there was a lot of, frankly, I felt the experience of racism, sexism, just controlling us and our content. And I was like, you know what? I will wait. I will literally wait until I can do the content that is smart. Like, you don't get to dumb me down and tell me I have to appeal to the people who don't wear masks in middle America. Like, that's crazy. I'm not doing that. But anyway, that's been part of the journey too. I'm
sorry to cut you off too. I don't think it would work if you dumbed it down at all. I think the reality is it wouldn't translate the same way. You wouldn't be your purest form, and it wouldn't even translate. I don't think you dumbing it down doesn't even work for me. So I don't think that I probably, because I love you, would like enjoy it, but I don't even know that I would enjoy it the same way I enjoy you being you. You see what I'm saying? Like,
yes, it doesn't work for me either. Like people have tried to fit me into little boxes along the way, and that's why I do my Instagram Live now. As my joke is that I greenlit myself, and you know what? Hundreds of thousands of people have seen me on my own terms without having to go through gatekeepers and all of that drama. So it's kind of great.
But I was thinking right now, I forgot. I saw you on Broad City. I was watching maybe the last season recently, and even then, you were yourself. You're so you. It was such a shining moment. Not because I know you either. I want to talk about. I love kind of people's first couple of years in New York. So where'd you go to college?
So I actually went to my junior high and high school years were in New York. So I went to the UN school, UNICEF, which was a very specific New York experience. And then I went to Bryn Mawr College in Pennsylvania. And then, And then after college, did you move back to New York? After college, meaning in the middle of college.
Got it. Good. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's cool. So, I've gone back there and taught since. So I graduate to teach. So it works. Good.
But I think that, again, I think those 8, 9, 10-year-old years and then those first years in New York they kind of shape your whole life. So once you moved back after college to New York, what were those year or two like, those first kind of struggling years?
So it was intense. And first of all, I literally said on my story, I was like, there will be sequins.
Thank you.
Like, there will be sequins because it's Damon, but now I'm hot, so I have to take this off.
I'm hot too, to be honest. I'm very hot. Take it off.
It's really hot. But
you have beautiful shoulders and neck. This hair is beautiful.
We're doing the scapula situation.
Yeah.
Or no, we're doing the, what is this front part?
I don't know.
I'm not a good English major. Scapula's back there. This is your thorax. I don't know what the fuck this is. Anyway.
Yours looks good. How about that?
Yes, my parents are the doctors. I don't have to be a doctor. So, in New York, first of all, it was that era of like, I mean, and you said we can name drop. So, you know, I was hanging out in the club. I was halfway between my feminism, because Bryn Mawr's a women's college, and I was like, you know, and I had always been, you know, that salt and pepper type of, you know what I mean? That was my earliest formative thing, was like women who can rhyme. Like I want, you know what I mean? I wanted us to have power and to be out front, and we often were not. And anyway, I just remember that energy of like, I'm still kind of figuring out my way. And I would be like, you know, up in the club, meeting people I maybe didn't need to be meeting, giving people my pager information at that time. So I was like kind of lost. I think it's really fair to say, like, I knew I had a vision and I knew I had a voice, but I was like focused on, you know, the industry at that time. You know, if Biggie's song gives you,
it's very normal. You know, you sound like you're, you know, don't be down on yourself about it. That's very normal for a girl at 21 or whatever, 22. You know, like you're finding yourself, which is great. And guess what? You found yourself hardcore. You know, so you mean. I
really did. And I have a story about like meeting Biggie and meeting, you know, all these MCs. I could run, huh?
No, please tell me about meeting Biggie.
I think we were at like one of those Jessica Stressica parties back in the day.
Yeah, she was on here.
Oh my God, you had Stressica on? Hi, Stressica. Mm-hmm. So very briefly, so this, I'm going to tell all my tales out of school now. So at one point, it was really hard to get into like one of her parties. My friend couldn't get on the list. I couldn't get on the list, blah, blah, blah. I don't remember who I called, but I called somebody as a British girl. And I was like, listen, we've got an artist here from London. She really needs to get in, blah, 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 blah. Got us all on the list. And I started just like scamming. This was horrible behavior. Anyway, so I was behaving very badly. Yes, smart. And, you know, if we could get in, we could get in on our own. But if whatever, then we would just go around. But where was I? It was like Tavern on the Green or something. Or no, maybe it was one. I just remember he gave me his phone number. And then my friend was like, I don't know if he was with Faith at the time. I just remember I was like, I can't handle any of this drama. And I don't think I'm attracted to that man. Like, he's very nice and he's very smart. I love the rhyming, but I don't. So I just remember that feeling of like, to be around men, you had to be available to them. Like you had to be sexually available. They'd be like, oh, mommy, I like the way you rhyme, or I like the way you this or that. But it was also what's in them jeans, and that was hard. Like
subservient, totally subservient to them, basically, right?
Yeah. And like that was, it was like, okay, I like your, you know, I had a song, believe it or not. I don't think I've talked to you about this, Dame, but Damon. The Lyricist Lounge. Do you remember this album? It was like so I had a poem on there. I was like performing at the New Eurekan Poets Cafe and doing the kind of slam poetry thing because I was trying to find my way. Mm-hmm. And I remember like being in the studio when like the guys from De La Soul walked out and they were like, we like your poem. And I was like, you know, this was like, I was fangirling at the same time as trying to find my way. And it was awkward because I wasn't standing in my own power yet. I really was not. You know, I didn't know how, and I'm sorry to say, but being sexualized.
I think it's totally okay. You sound like you're a little down. You know, it's like you're saying it like it's a bad thing. It's a normal. I mean, you know, it's a normal part of the growing up process. You're probably still very young at the time. You know, like
I was. You know what it is? Okay. Thank you for framing it that way, because even now, like as a feminist at this stage in my life, I think that the old mentality of shaming, you know, like slut shaming, if you were hanging out with dudes and blah, 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 that still comes up for me when I talk about these old stories. And I need somebody to say, hey, girl, hey, like you know, this was what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, no, but hold on, look at it this way too. And, you know, because I can kind of hear it when you're saying it, you know, the reality is it made you who you are now. Think about it that way, to be honest. If you came out the gate like, you know, this, I don't think you wouldn't have anywhere to go. You go up, you know, like you know, you need I think everyone needs a little room to grow and stand a little stronger on their 2 feet. You know, if you were, you know what I mean? So you can look at it that way.
Thank you for saying that. And you know what else? I have empathy. Like there are a lot of women, girls who I meet who, as part of their rise in the industry, there was some of that, whether it was, they had to like use what they had to move ahead. Sometimes whether it's exotic dancing or other, kind of all of that is part of the story. And in writing Sell By Date, actually, and we're working on a documentary, so I'll keep you posted about that. But in writing about this topic, I can say to girls, if I go perform, I remember going to perform on Rikers Island in a girls, unfortunately, I mean, it's so insane to me that we have 14 and 15-year-old girls, at that time, it was it was in the early aughts, but like locked up basically for being children who were victimized by a system that treats them like they're older women and that punishes, girls and women who are trying to make a living, right? So that's a whole other thing we can't unpack right now. But I remember being able to say to them, yeah, you know what? Somebody told me you would be dope in this movie. Why don't you come, and I had to like really check myself. How many blunts have I smoked? Like, whoa. It's very easy to get caught up in a dynamic like that, even with my feminist education and my privilege and everything I had. So it helps me always empathize with women and, with the men who understand, especially looking back, what that was,
Well, I mean, the entertainment industry is very engulfing. It kind of like sucks you in. It's like centrifugal. It's engulfing, and you really have to, we're not there in the story yet. We're not like in the entertainment. You're dabbling still, I think.
Right.
But okay, so you're the beginning years of New York. You're New York Cafe, you said, and Deaf Poetry Jam or Slam.
Yeah, Deaf Poetry Slam. So it was a slam, and then Russell, actually, I don't know if anybody's watched On the Record, but that is coming up for me too, the documentary about Drew and everything that she went through. But, it is fascinating to me to look back now and realize Russell took slam poetry and put it on Broadway. It was all around the same time. My ex was in that show. Was I in that show? I was in the HBO. It's been a long career. I was in the HBO version, and there were lots of, Erykah Badu would come through. It was this beautiful moment. I think Mos Def was hosting at the time. And so it was that mix, right? It's always like the paradoxes of, in a way, we had amazing creative freedom. We got to write our own poems and be on I had people from South Africa, like getting in touch with me, like, come perform and blah, blah, blah. So, and that never would have happened without Russell and doing what he did. And at the same time, we know, right, there's this negotiation that artists always have with the parent company, with their culture, how much like leverage do we really have? So it was an interesting time of like still trying to find my way. I definitely remember thinking like, the Broadway version of it, the audience was all white. It was like pretty much an all white audience, like every night. And that was the first time I got that feeling of like, wait a minute, this is not the New Eurekan. Like this is a very different energy. And actually that was preparing me for the rest of my career, which I did not know how that dynamic was going to play.
What do you think, first of all, did anybody kind of mentor you, or who did you like during that time? Who did you look up to who kind of mentored you?
So do you know, I had this wonderful, she's a director named Gloria Feliciano. She's Boricua from the South Bronx, or she's not from the South Bronx, but we were, I was living, where was I living? I think I was living in Manhattan at the time. She was living in the Bronx. And we were like this two women of color little team. She helped me develop my work. She helped me kind of find my way to like, I don't know if you remember, Puffy at one point was like investing in different stuff. So he got wind of me back when his name was Puffy.
Yeah.
And, so I started getting introduced. Spike Lee, I think, found me that way. Like I started just kind of getting found in these different ways, and she was helping shepherd me. And then also, Gil Scott-Heron was somebody. So I wrote a poem called Your Revolution, and believe it or not, it got airplay. Like it was this crazy thing where at the time, somebody in like, it was the George Bush administration, somebody in the Bush administration, like censored an Eminem song at the time and my song. 2 songs out of everything that was playing on any radio station. They come after my little ass. Of course, Eminem's, whoever was Interscope just like took care of him. And I was like twisted in the wind. Meanwhile, I'm like Miss Sesame Street. I was like, I'm not even Lil' Kim. I wasn't even, Foxy Brown or anything like that. I'm like the Bryn Mawr girl who's like, I think my boobs are showing, And so for them to kind of twist it on me and be like, this pornographic rapper. I remember I was in Rolling Stone because I fought the lawsuit and I won. I beat the FCC when I was a kid. So that was later. Yeah. Yay. But yeah, stuff like that was just, like you say, this turn, helped me become who I am.
Well, it's kind of like the theme of this whole talk is like, the reality is, you are so uniquely, I only met you the last like 5 or 6 years, and you're so you, but all these kind of like, getting sued or all these different things made you, I think, be as solidly you as you humanly can be, which you are. And that makes your talent, I think, shine so much brighter as well as a result. Do you see what I'm saying? You're so it or something. I can't say you're just pure, you're purity. And that's, very rare. And that's why, I was drawn to it. I think that's why anyone that sees it, the reality is probably anyone that sees your show then is like a fan for life. I think that's probably how it goes. Once people become familiar with you, I think that's it. It's like, that's it. They probably, someone that saw your first show probably sees all your shows. You see what I'm saying?
I have a lot of early adapters. People were like, I saw your first thing.
Yeah.
Like, stop aging me. I'm like, keep it down. People don't know how old I am out here. Anyway, but yes.
All right, so who inspires you style-wise? Who's someone that you say is, I love that person's style? Could be, again, Diana Ross in the 70s. Could be,
oh my God.
Zendaya now. Could be anyone.
Yes. So I love that you keep bringing up Diana Ross because she was just such, and I felt, how now, especially, I'm not saying people don't have their own style, but stylists, you know what I mean?
You're right.
And I feel like with Diana, I don't know, maybe it's just my naivete, but I was like, that's her. She's, she's really, that's her personality. So I've always, and how gorgeous it all is when you look now. And Bianca Jagger, like that era.
Me too, same thing.
Women with these like, the way they pulled off like a tuxedo, but it was like the most amazing feminine. Like
so sexy, yeah, so sexy, yeah.
So sexy and like, yeah.
Well, there's so I love both those. I love both of them very much. Diana Ross in the 70s. Actually, anything Studio 54, all the Studio 54. But I went to an exhibit right before everything got shut down in New York, and Liza Minnelli always wore this like purple beaded two-piece, and they had it there, and I was just like, I love any of that stuff. Yeah, exactly. So
oh my
Bianca.
God. You're reminding me. So Liza Minnelli came to my show, and I almost died. Okay, she was like, honey, and I was like, oh my God, she's in my dressing room. I met Folds and Cher, and getting to like hear her talk about her, I was like, is this happening? But that era I think still speaks to now. And if you look at what I love is how much more open, like when you look at, the campaigns we're seeing now with non-binary people, like these gorgeous, like people who had to hide, by the way, it's not that they weren't working. It's just, if people have seen the Disclosure documentary, which I highly recommend, especially if you don't have trans in your life.
I talk about it every night on this show. Everybody watch Disclosure, and people have as a result. And the number one thing for me, and I talked to Laverne extensively about it, recently, is that straight men in particular, cis men, are watching it and learning a lot. To me, that's my favorite part of it. So
like that, if they can do that, like for me, that's art. That is the highest calling of art, is that not only do you make something beautiful, and I couldn't stop watching it, and it was really informative and really well done, but that you actually change the culture, move the needle. I
said 13th in Disclosure. Every person I speak with has to see those movies, period. 100%. And also, I said to Laverne, first I think it should be both should be shown in schools. Both those movies should be shown in schools. And I told Laverne that this movie will be her legacy. That'll be her legacy. You mean?
Absolutely. Among many, I see her continuing to like she.
Yeah, I say we have major part of her legacy, not yes, like a legacy making moment for sure. So, and yeah, Disclosure. Have we talked about it? You and I don't think we have. How much we both love it.
Oh my God, not yet. Like we haven't gotten to like get together and kiki about like, oh my God, did you see it?
I do love Disclosure very much, and I suggest every single person see it. End of story. So, what kind of music do you like? Because you seem to, I'm just curious, because first of all, you love to dance. You've been to my parties many times. And so, I was a little surprised, I think, because I guess I knew you more working, and I always saw you in that realm. And the first time you came out to dance, girl, you danced for you were sweating, and to be honest, it just made me like you more, obviously, but I was like, oh yeah, you're hugely talented, and I'm a huge fan, but you're also very fun. So,
honey. Yes.
What do you like?
Well, so first of all, I have no chill on the dance floor, as you know, and that is so important.
You know, I really, but
it's like if I'm gonna go enjoy, and I love. There's so much like the interesting thing for me now, right, is like whether it's a Frank Ocean or, you know, like there are artists, contemporary artists that to me borrow so much. I mean, it's obvious with like a Miguel and Prince or with but like, I feel like there's a timelessness to some of the music now that I really adore. I love Jadena. I love, you know, like I love something that brings the multicultural kind of energy and is its own thing at the same time. And I am one of those people who, if I am obsessed with a song, I can play it like over and over and over.
The same thing. The same thing. I guess listen 10 times a day for like 4 weeks. I mean,
it's a lot. But and then I'm also, you know, throwback like the energy of like I'll listen to. It's funny because it depends, but depending on my mood. Like I use music as my church. I use music as my temple, as my spiritual foundation. So there are some songs. There's an Abby Lincoln song, for example, that like got me through my divorce. You know,
yeah.
And like there are some songs that for me are divine and channeled, and you know, like in some of what's been going on recently, I would just play Solange's, you know, the Seat at the Table album. Like I would just kind of use that to help me move through pain.
Yeah.
So I really kind of, I use music in a certain way as much as I, you know, listen to it.
Well, music is, you know, it's such an important part of my life, and I felt that from you too. I knew it would be, you know, because you don't work in the music industry, you don't really do music per se, but I don't really realistically either. Like I don't do music, but it's such an important part of my life. I thought it would be the same. It would be such a, like you said, soothing or, you know, healing. Those are great.
Healing, so. Yes.
Okay, so I want to talk about the shit show of the world we're in right now. So I don't want to get too heavy into it all, but I know that these are things that you not enjoy talking about, but you are very passionate about, let's say, you know, because some of these are very unpleasant topics. But I want to start with kind of like the Women's March and what that kind of meant to you and what your experience was and what the takeaway was for you. Because I know that you were just heavily involved, I guess is the right word.
Yes, I was involved, and I did a video with my characters talking at the beginning, all women from all backgrounds. You know, I got to be a woman of Arab descent, talking about we have to make sure that all the women of all the backgrounds rise up against this Trump, right? So they cannot divide and conquer. Does not matter religion, doesn't matter. So I did a video that played on the jumbotrons before we kicked off. So that was wild. And then, yeah, it was beautiful. And then amazing. The march itself, I mean, I started to say, you know, like when you and I met, it was like another planet, a galaxy far, far away in terms of like where we are now. And yet at the same time, there's a part of me that feels like whether it's the Women's March or the uprisings of now, you know, like, I'm going to be talking about this tomorrow. So if people tune in to Yes, I'm Sarah Jones show, this is the kind
3 p.m. West Coast, right? 3
p.m. East Coast.
Yeah,
it's like a matinee. So like, so you stop and you have your lunch break if you're working or whatever. So, you know, I get in there and kind of chop it up with my characters about the fact that, for example, you know, right now, like there are some people who say like, oh my God, it's so horrible. It's so horrible now. Actually, if you are Black or brown, living in poverty, you know, living in the prison industrial complex, living in foster care, this shit has never been cool. It wasn't even cool during Obama. You know what I'm saying? So in a way, I'm like, we all need to get up off this narrative that it was better before and it would have gotten better under Hillary. I voted for Hillary and I still would. Yeah. But I am not, I believe that we are in a reckoning that has been needed for the whole 400 years. And we get to stop telling ourselves, you know, that this is new.
That is a great way of saying it. I don't even know if I mean, I agree with it 100%, obviously, but I said, you know, white supremacy and systematic racism are terms that, as a country, we're using now, which we weren't even using 6 months ago. We weren't even using those terms. Those are common terms in our country now. You know what I mean? And they were like barely ever used for, 20, 40 years or whatever. My point is, so those are things that people know about now. That's to me the benefit.
There had to be a Klansman in a robe with a burning cross on your lawn for you to be allowed to say, you know, otherwise you're pulling the race card. But think about all the shit we have been living through in terms of how
I know we use terms now like microaggressions, macroaggressions, but shit, I'm here for it because we've been living with it all this time and only allowed to talk about it behind closed doors. And now it's like, welcome, white people. Like, welcome to our world. And you know, I know it's not going to change overnight. But I am going to, I feel like you are doing your part. You know, the people in our, you know, community, everybody's stepping up because in a way, it's like we're stepping up to say, it's y'all turn. Like we've been doing it the whole time. We've been fighting the whole time.
Again, as a white man, but I have said this.
I got a little excited.
Get excited. I know, this is good. We're gonna excited now. But I have said this several times, and I haven't said it to you, I don't think, but this is not a black person's problem. This is a white person's problem. White people need to fix this problem that they created. That's what I've said it many times. So, and I don't think everybody understands that, you mean? But Sarah, I will say this too, one more thing. It just, what I've learned many, many things the last 6 months or 4 or 5 months. But I learned that for me is that things that are obvious to me, you know, very obvious, like very obvious, are not obvious to everybody else. So, or not obvious to everybody. So I like to state the obvious. That's my personal goal right now. You mean to state the obvious because I thought it was obvious, you know, but not everyone else. So let me ask you this: what is your kind of personal, you know, what are you focusing on personally with I guess with this? You mean so?
You know, a big part of this is like especially as Black folks and as, you know, for me as a not only Black but also a woman, like the emotional labor that we have all been doing for so long. I'm so exhausted. I didn't even know how tired I was, right? I'm just used to carrying white people on my back and not even realizing I'm doing it. Dragging them, you know, being the nice enough Black person that they invite me to TED or to, you know, the World Economic Forum in Davos, and I'm the only Black person, you know, besides Will.i.am. Like, you know.
I call it like easily, I have tons of like, you know, Black male friends that people want that all around all the time too, because they're like easily digestible. It's not, you know, non-threatening, obviously, you know, that thing, whatever.
Yes,
you know, so,
that thing. And it's like, but where is my, you know, where's my narrative in all of this? I'm always having to make myself more palatable so that you will at least give us the most basic, you know, kind of attention to our humanity. So I think that part of what's happening now is like realizing how tired I am. Not competing in the quarantine productivity Olympics. I'm not doing that. Doing what I love and saying no. When people call me, you know, studios, and right now I greenlit myself, so I'm getting whatever, I'm in Variety or People or these other places on my own merit, which is so wonderful, and I'm really grateful for it. And what it shows me is we don't need these gatekeepers. And so I'm in this place right now of like, only work with the people I want to work with, focus on self-care and like radical self-love. Like when a voice comes up like what you did to rescue me in that moment where I was like, well, y'all, I was kind of slutty. Like, you know, when I'm treating myself like that, come back with like, no. Like we are, you know, about like raising, I don't mean to sound like I feel like I sound like somebody on YouTube who's like, raise your vibration. But, you know, we as Black people and our, not just allies, but accomplices. You are an accomplice. You're not just an ally. You know what I mean? Ally is somebody who's like, ooh, I see you. I'm cheering from the sidelines. Let me sit here and, you know, have my hot dog. No, come on the field with us and be an accomplice. So us and our folks right now, I think making sure that we do not deplete ourselves, making sure that we own our worth and our value. And even if you have to like take a pause when somebody's like, I'd really love to have you on my thing. It's going to be lots of exposure, but you need to do it for free. You get to be like, no, my ancestors worked for free forever. Pay me. You know, and I encourage people like white. I'm like, if you're white and you have deep pockets, go to my Venmo because I'm about to give you a show. You know, so it's that kind of thing, like taking care of ourselves. Really,
I have to say, you sound so good. You sound very good. To be honest, it sounds very great. Good for you. You sound even. You know, we haven't really talked like this in a few months. You know, I think we tried to slide each other right before all this went down. But like, you know, you seem. Well, we spent New Year's Eve together. Remember that? But you seem very in a great place, actually. It's interesting. You mean? So good for you.
Thank you.
Who inspires you right now with this, you know, the civil, you know, unrest that's happening? Who's inspiring you right now?
Oh, there are so many brilliant minds out there, you know, doing the work. I mean, obviously Brittany Packnett Cooper. There are some folks who people may not know as well, though. And there's a sister named Sonia Renee Taylor.
she is she is really ahead of the conversation because she's coming at it from a place of like all things at the same time. Our politics, our self-love as Black people, loving our bodies, loving our, you know, really understanding that Donald Trump sort of represents the worst of what can go wrong when we don't have love as our basis, you know, for how we deal with each other. So she's like a self-love meets politics, you know, amazing.
I don't want to interrupt for 1 second because it's interesting because I don't think, and I think you're the first person I've talked to about this, the self-love part of it and the self-care part of it is such an important component to, because everyone's fighting right now, or been fighting the last few months. And, you know, I mean, their whole life, but like the last few months in particular, it's been such a, you know, a fight focused,
yes, that
the self-care part is equally as important because then you just get your head right to really get everything right. You know, like the self-love part, and you're doing it and you seem great. So I can see it in your face. So
you know what? It's so true. And like, you know, if people read Audre Lorde, I think I don't know if it's the right quote, but it was like, self-care is revolution. It is revolutionary. Like when we don't take care of ourselves, we're depleted and we lose the momentum we need for our movement. So Black folks, you know, a bubble bath is part of my, or whatever, like a pedicure, all of that stuff. And like, it's a really important point, I think too, that so many of us have grown up believing it's selfish. It's not selfish, it's self-care. You're not saying, you know, you're not saying no to that other person or that responsibility. You're saying yes to yourself and filling your own tank. And I will say also this, I'm sure you've heard this expression before, hurt people hurt people. So if you are hurting and you're not taking care of yourself, you're going to take it out on whatever and not even realize it till it comes out sideways, you know?
That's a great note. It's a really important part to focus on. I don't think enough people are even talking about it because I've talked to several people in general the last few months and no one's really focused on that angle, but I can see it in your face that it's working for you. I see it literally. So, like I think I mentioned to you, so Janelle Monáe did a food drive and Maxine Waters hosted with her. And I've seen Maxine in live, but to see her in action, I was blown away, to be honest. She was authoritative, but so of the people. She was directing traffic, and for her to still care so much at this age, has devoted her entire life. To me, you know, it just blew me away in a great way. And that to me was so inspiring. And to be honest, Maxine pops up at all these places, like she's always everywhere that kind of she should be. I'm like, oh, she's, you know, not even that. I'm like blown away that she could be at these really, just, you know, kind of sometimes a little edgy for her. Like she's at these edgy places really doing her work, you know, and like, you know, I was blown away, to be honest. And her little 5'2" self and her and Janelle passed each other at one point, and I said, y'all, that's you at that age, you know what I mean? Because they're feisty little women, you know, tough little cookies. It was amazing for me personally. So.
Oh my God, I love that so much. I was so excited when I saw that on your feed, and then like, you know, Auntie Maxine did not come to play with, like I saw this thing today where she like got out, she saw a cop had pulled over a Black driver, she got out of her car and
that's
what is the problem?
Yep, no, I love her, and like, you know, it was just blew me away in a great way. I mean, I've seen her not a million times, I've seen her several times, but this specific moment, I guess what's going on in the world, she was right here. I saw her in action for a long time, you know, and for her to be so passionate about it, and like, she's a tough cookie. You mean, all 5'1", you know, like.
I love her so, and everything they've thrown at her, and this woman has been walking the earth since what, 1940 or something? I mean, God love her. Also, I want to quickly say, because I noticed a comment, somebody asked who the author was. So Sonia Renee Taylor, and her book is called The Body Is Not an Apology, which I love, right? There it is. It's like, don't hate your body, like love your body, whatever size it is, love yourself. And that is part of how we're going to beat white supremacy and patriarchy and all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, you know, it's interesting because I think that it had been boiling in like the entertainment industry the last couple of years in general. It was already headed this way anyway. You know, even Solange's album with like Seat at the Table and things, that was, you know, kind of a prelude of what's kind of happening right now in a way. And I think that you know, yeah. But it's really interesting because I just thought about it right now as we're talking. It was kind of like coming anyway, if you think about it, right?
You know, Oscar's so white.
Yes, yeah.
It's all connected, and I'm sorry to say it, but you know, if you're a cis, straight, male, white dude right now, you need to like really check your privilege and look at where you've been participating or, you know, benefiting while other people have been tolerating this for so long. So.
Well, okay, so Hollywood, I know that you dabble in the Hollywood, you know, world, kind of, you know, like, you know, And I've experienced Hollywood the last couple of years here in LA, and it is really, it's a really interesting place. So it is extremely white to me. You know, I can't believe sometimes I'll go to these events and I'm like, I don't get it. It's like, you know, and you know, so what what would you like Hollywood? First of all, did you see Hollywood, Ryan Murphy's Hollywood?
I haven't yet. I know. Yeah. It's in my queue. I have so much stuff.
So where would you like to see Hollywood? Like you?
Yeah, so first of all, we get to acknowledge that Hollywood is behind a lot of the white supremacy that we experience, right? It's behind a lot of the oppression that we see.
Well, I didn't even know the movie Birth of the Nation in the 1915. I learned about it, you know, kind of more recently. That explains it all. That explains everything to me. That movie, it grossed $50 million in 1915.
Right, it's like a multi-billion-dollar movie equivalent.
Stars the Ku Klux Klan as the stars, the main stars.
Right. The Ku Klux Klan are the protagonists who you are supposed to root for. If
Yes.
you know more than that, and then, you know, unfortunately, white supremacy and the way women are objectified because of male dominance in the movies and blah, blah, blah. Like, it just, the whole town is, you know, kind of, it was born out of a legacy of oppression and, you know, marginalizing certain groups, period. So if you don't really get in there and change that, then Hollywood's going to continue to look the same, except with a few of us sprinkled in. I've had some wonderful opportunities. I'm in A Marriage Story, which was a beautiful film, and I loved getting to, you know, play opposite Scarlett Johansson, whatever. And
I'm sorry, I'm not talking about you. I'm not talking about your personal experiences, because you're very talented. You should be doing amazing things. How would you like to see, like, Hollywood, not Sarah's Hollywood, Hollywood? You know what I mean? Like,
okay, so Hollywood more broadly is like, what would have to happen is a lot of things, and people don't want to acknowledge this.
Yeah, well, exactly.
There's something like, I think it's 95% of the people who can actually greenlight something, the gatekeepers, right? The producers at the highest, they're still white men. So when you hear all this stuff about, oh my God, now you can't get anything made unless you're black or you're a woman, bullshit. You know, suddenly we have like an inch of the mile that they've had for, you know, generations. And it's like they say, right? When you're used to privilege, equality looks like oppression. So they are going to have to acknowledge that they are working in a system that exploits, you know, talent. I'm a writer also. I'm directing this first documentary that I'm making. Like, you know, we all, whoever's in Hollywood, is operating right now under a system that's not that different than America, right? Like,
no, absolutely, same thing. Yeah.
People of color are marginalized. LGBTQ stories are still marginalized. Like, we get to acknowledge that it's not fixed. We are a long way from fixing the problem at every level. Even, you know, this is something that people don't like to talk about. But there's a vote that's happening right now in my union, in the SAG-AFTRA union, actors and performers. And even within that union, like, you know, there are people who, to them, it's like, shut up, brown people, shut up, you know, background actors who only make $20 an hour. We want our contract to look like this, and y'all have to vote yes. It's just a mentality. It's a very old mentality that says we can't ask for better. It reminds me of the people who are like, well, there's just a few bad apples in, you know, the police system, but we have to keep the system. No, this shit is not about bad apples. This is the whole orchard. Dig the whole shit out. So I think Hollywood needs a radical overhaul.
Well, I love what Viola said, the quote that's been circulating on Instagram about, you know, you're the black Meryl Streep. She's like, then pay me like Meryl Streep, obviously, number one. But then when I first started coming to LA, which is like about 10 years ago, I said, I could feel it in the air here. I said, this is a man's town. Women are subservient across the board. It's a man's town and a white man's town, but you feel it here. You actually feel it in the air. You totally feel it.
Yes.
Okay, so we have 1 more minute left, or we can continue. What do you want to do?
So I hate to tell you this, but mama's got to eat. I got to eat all these things.
Okay, so 1 more question, then we're going to wrap it up. If you go to dinner with 4 people, living or dead, who would it be?
Oh, Damon! Why are you doing this to me? Okay, 4 people, living or dead. Wow. This is a tough one. All right, I'm going to say, so I'm very curious about her. So Sojourner Truth. Living or dead. 4 people, living or dead. Just give me dead. I could do dead.
No, 4 people. You can do it. You can do this.
All right, 1 minute. Oh, the pressure. Okay.
Just say we're coming. Don't overthink. Go. Say it.
Okay. Don't think, just do it. Prince.
Great.
Who else died that I wished I had? Mandela. I would really have liked.
Great, that's 3. One more.
Oh, one more. Oh my God, living or dead.
Oh, we have 7 seconds. All right, I'm cutting off because I love you. I want to say goodbye to you. I love you. You're amazing.